Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I've decided as of about 5 minutes ago that this will be the second of 3 Kirblogs that I'll be recording in a row. So I'm actually doing this before Christmas, a few days before Christmas, but this will be coming out on Saturday the 27th, just after Christmas. So I hope you all had a lovely Christmas, if you celebrated, or I hope you all had a lovely winter holiday of your choosing. Today, I'm gonna, or rather several days before, but today, I am going to be talking about another mildly controversial subject. I'm gonna talk about shipping. My God, shipping has been a thing that I have wavered on many different ways in many different forms throughout my years, throughout the last, 10 years, I think, believe it or not. For those of you who also, by the way, think I'm talking about shipping as in shipping from Amazon.com or some horse shit. No, I mean supporting relationships in fictional media and identifying with it and thinking it's cute or whatever. I'm going to talk about that because I feel with, I recently put out, actually a week ago, as of the time this will be out, I put out Tome Episode 13, which sparked a lot of shipping thoughts from many people and from my fan base and stuff, of the people who watch the show, which is, you know, if anything, to me, it's just a pleasure that people even care about the show at all and get emotionally invested in it in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, for when I was a kid, I grew up with Disney movies, you know, and so I had a lot of very stereotypical prince and princess hetero romances just kind of pounded into me, and I always thought that they were, annoying. They were the parts of Disney movies that I was just like, ugh, whatever, when I'm 5 years old or something. And then when anime started hitting and I began to get more into that, then something about it just kind of changed my mind, and I began to get more invested in that side of things. I think particularly Yu Yu Hakusho and Inuyasha, which were both kind of around on Adult Swim and Cartoon Network at the same time. I'd say those were the two shows that kind of really sparked everything, because I was like, oh, I hope Yusuke and Keiko get together and they're going to be okay. Oh, I hope that Inuyasha gets over Kikyo and gets together with Kagome. Any of the warm and fuzzy episodes of those shows, always kind of struck a chord with me. But I remember Mike, Lucas, and I were watching Dot Hack Sign, also, I think, around that same time, maybe a little after that. If you haven't seen Dot Hack Sign, I'm going to spoil something, so I apologize, but the show is, again, over a decade, so what are you going to do? Where it's revealed that the main character, Tsukasa, was actually a girl. And I want to say, I think that was actually one of the first gay romances I had seen in anything. Not that I wasn't aware of what homosexuality was by the time I was a teenager, obviously, but more as far as seeing it in a show that I was invested in, and because obviously Tsukasa and Subaru, one of the girl characters, had a thing for each other, and when it's revealed, towards the end that, oh, Tsukasa's actually a woman. It's like, oh, but they're still attracted to each other, and then at the end of the series, when they find each other in real life, they still have that moment with each other, and it's really quite beautiful in retrospect. But at the time, it's weird, because I remember, we sounded almost not disgusted about it, but oh, that's weird, because we just didn't get it at the time. And but then I think Mike was even the one who said, yeah, I think they probably went with that because they wanted it to be more realistic. And I realized, yeah, it is realistic, because lesbians are a thing that exists and they're normal. Why is that even a thing that we're even putting that much thought into? It was adorable. And if anything, it was the first sign of oh, now I understand why I mentioned in the Korra finale vlog that I did in the previous Kirblog, why having something like that in fictional media is really meaningful and really important. Because you don't always get that, and it's a big deal, because for animation, which, for better or worse and more often than not, is usually aimed at a younger audience than live action stuff or movies, where you can just do whatever you want for the most part, like that, especially involving gay stuff. It's like that when something like that is allowed, it's nice. it's a nice change of pace, for fuck's sake. So from there, again, that was kind of the beginning of it. Then was the time when I was beginning to get kind of off-put by shipping, because I've been involved in a lot of really obnoxious anime fandoms. I've seen annoying Inuyasha fans. I've seen annoying Mega Man Battle Network fans. I've seen really annoying Full Metal Alchemist fans. And I've seen both, thankfully, very intelligent Dragon Ball Z fans and psychotic, stereotypical, annoying DBZ fans. To give both fair opposite ends of the spectrum on that one. But when it came to shipping in anime fandom, no, not just anime fandom, but like, comics and just, just media like this in general, a lot of times I was seeing it as just like, oh, it's fantasy projection, and I included a lot of like yaoi and yuri stuff in there because I felt like, oh, like girls just want to see yaoi because they get off to, guys being together, and vice versa for, guys thinking that yuri is hot because they want to see girls macking on each other, etc. When I saw that, I was like, oh, this is just like people projecting their fantasies on each other or whatever. And, and I was, I guess, not surprised to find out many years later in Japan, apparently, like, gay relationships culturally in that country are kind of considered to be, like, immature. Like, oh, haha, that's so funny. I think I've even heard once that, I don't know if this is true, but, like, if people in Japan see lesbians, they think, oh, what a waste of a good woman, because, like, oh, they're not procreating, which is ridiculous. But the other thing, too, was some of the stuff about... Okay, actually, no, hang on, I'm going to tell this story now. I went to go see Frozen a year and a half ago, a while ago, whatever it was. And when it first came out in theaters. And, I go listen to my thoughts about Frozen in general. I might have even said this on the Kirblog from, like, almost a whole year ago now about my thoughts about Frozen, but either way. We got out of the theater, and it was me and Mike and a bunch of friends of ours from school, and two of them, who were girls, were immediately after the movie was over, they were like, oh my god, I ship Kristoff and Elsa so hard. And I'm just like, what? Like, all I could think of was like, did they even talk? And then I'm like, yeah, like, I think Kristoff and Elsa in Frozen maybe exchanged all of like 2 or 3 sentences between each other. And I'm just like, how do you, what? Because they're both ice? Because she has ice powers and he's an ice shaving guy? Is that why? Like, really? So I found that completely ridiculous. And then after we went to dinner, and I brought up like my example of, oh, it's like when I see people shipping like, Sasuke and Hinata on Naruto. It's like, I don't even think those characters have ever interacted with each other. If they have, I don't remember it at any point in watching all million fucking episodes of that show. And when I see that stuff on like DeviantArt or whatever, I'm just that's just all it makes me think is like it's just fantasy projection. It's like I identify as Sasuke because I'm dark and brooding and emo, and I want my like fantasy girlfriend to be the shy, cute, submissive one like Hinata. So I'm gonna like draw them together or like write fic about them or whatever because that's what I want, and then I'm gonna pretend that I'm them or whatever. Like that's what it would come off like to me. And so when I hear that kind of stuff, I'm just like, really, and to be fair, and this particular part I'm about to say, I will stick to. I do think that it kind of cheapens the experience a bit when people only make a story and characters and something into that, because I have seen people only make it about like their fantasy or their sexual desires or whatever, and I think that when it's taken too far and when it's taken too obnoxiously, it's like it is discrediting. A lot of what goes into the actual story and the actual, like, creation of this. Like, obviously, relationships and romances and sometimes stuff left purposely ambiguous, is part of the whole creative process, sure. But I feel like when it's made only into just that by itself, then it's like, well, then you're kind of devaluing the story. But on the opposite end of things, I do get where those feelings come from, and my mind has definitely been changed, and my eyes have been opened up about where those feelings come from for people. An example would come from after we went to go see Frozen, and I had that bit about like, what, Kristoff, Elsa, why? We went to dinner, and we were talking about Professor Xavier and Magneto from X-Men, and how a lot of people ship them, and at the same time I was like, they have this really strong bond, and it's like this really important thing to the plot. It's like, why does it have to be sexualized? But after that, and I think it even was Mike Lucas who made this point about, well, it's not necessarily about sexualization. It's just that realistically, there could be a lot of pent-up sexual tension between Xavier and Magneto. Like, that's a thing that actually could be an element of it, and, you know, we don't know. And then it made me think about Kingdom Hearts, which, you know, Kingdom Hearts was another one I didn't mention of like, you know, that has a lot of obnoxious fans. It does. I'm one of them. Probably not for the same reasons, but either way. With Kingdom Hearts, like, apparently Tetsuya Nomura, who was the whole, you know, designer of everything with that, the master of all the character relationships and plot of Kingdom Hearts, is that he leaves a lot of those relationships very ambiguous. You know, it harkens back to that VG Cats comic that Scott Ramsemer made about, like, you know, Sora sees Kairi, he's been hunting for Kairi all this time, and he's like, Kairi, etc. And then, like, Riku shows up, and he's just like, Riku, I've been, like, searching you everywhere. And Kairi's like, excuse me, I have boobs now, hello, over here. And it's like, yeah, but you know what? It's like, or like Axel and Roxas and all that stuff, it's like, I get it now. I do understand, because being able to, and this is the thing too, especially when it comes to gay relationships and this sort of thing, you know, I've learned so much about the, you know, the LBGT community. I hope I said that anagram right. I'm sorry. I've learned so much about, like, the homosexual world and you know, transgender, etc. From over the course of many years now, from knowing a lot of people and being friends with a lot of people that, you know, identify with that, and I've seen firsthand. It's like you know, stories of, yeah, like when that stuff is there, even if it's left ambiguous or even if it's just, you know, left open in general, it's nice because it allows me, it's comforting. It is something for people to identify, and it's not always necessarily in a sexualized, you know, fantasy way. It's just because they want some, you know, they want and need representation, and I see no, you know, reason to not have that there. And now when I look back on all this stuff that I used to scoff at and think was like immature or annoying or whatever, now it's like, no, there is a real reason behind why this stuff exists, and it's important because it's something that is very deeply meaningful to a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And at the same point too, it sometimes it does mean something genuine to, you know, people who are just straight, you know, probably not to the same extent, but, you know, even if it's like a romance that was just really beautiful to them and they really liked it or whatever, it's like, I get it. Like with Tome in particular, you know, I've often said that I feel like I kind of drop the ball with certain things, like Alpha and Flamey, stereotypical, you know, hetero romance is just probably the remnants of, like, you know, oh, just all the Disney movies and all the, you know, anime shit or whatever that is kind of like seeped into me and it's just there. But at the same time, I also try to make the other relationships, that's delicious, the other relationships between the other important characters in Tome a little more open and interesting and different, because I want more representation in there. And I think for, especially when I finish Tome and I move on to something bigger and better than it down the line, I want to have even more of that in there, because I think that that's important to have more representation of it. It's why I think it is a massive deal that the Korra Asami get together, you know, ambiguous or otherwise thing at the end of Legend of Korra is extremely important and meaningful, and it's a good thing that it happened, and it's a good thing that Nickelodeon let it happen. You know, so what am I saying with this? I'm saying that I understand where people come from on this subject now, and I think that it does have value, and it's something that I'm very conscious of now in my own storytelling, because I think that a lot of these things need to be kept in mind for being progressive, you know, for everybody, for not only for the sake of representation to people who are unrepresented, I'm on a roll today, but also because I think it's also important just progressing, making better stuff and more interesting and less predictable stuff. You know what I mean? I think that that's something that anybody can take something away from. And you know, even if sometimes it's I think that the nonsensical, like, out of nowhere ones where it's just like, what are you doing? sometimes that stuff does still kind of annoy me, and like I said, it's a little aggravating when I feel like the story and the work and effort that goes into a lot of this stuff is kind of underappreciated in terms of just like, you know, oh, I'm just in it for the fan service or the, you know, sexual fantasies or whatever. But, you know, even all that aside, I feel like I have a more, you know, like a wider understanding and appreciation for what it is that people enjoy about that aspect of consuming media and being a fan and you know, really taking something away. Because, you know, I think it's important to take something away from an experience with a story, whether it's a book, a video game, a movie, a show, whatever. I think that a play even, it's really important to, you know, to take something away from that experience that, you know, does resonate with you. Even if it's just like a laugh or just like entertainment, like sure, but if it can be something deeper than that and more meaningful than that, then I think that's great. I think that's what this stuff should be all about. If we're, you know, if it's a multi-billion-dollar industry to create entertainment, it should be something that resonates with their audience in a way that is that's good. Going in circles. Okay. Tell me in the comments. I'm really curious about this. What's your favorite ship and why? I think that's all I need to say about that, and I'm very curious about your stories. Let me know. And if you have ideas for future Kirblog topics, for 2015 in particular, please let me know in the comments below as well. And you know, you can hit me up on here or on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, whatever you want. And that's going to be, we've got only one more Kirblog left in 2014 now, and that's going to be my New Year's resolutions for 2015. So please enjoy that, and look forward to that on the 30th, so very soon. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed doing this one. This was a recent idea that just kind of popped into mind, and hopefully it's going to turn out okay. So yeah, thanks for listening, and again, I hope you have a very happy whatever it is you celebrate this year, and I will see you all later. Have a wonderful one. Bye. Have a wonderful one. Oh, one. I'm funny.